Before we go over how to use a compass, I think it's important to know the parts of a compass. So over here you can see a diagram that's labeled, and over here you can see the compasses that you are going to be using in class. Keep in mind that compasses do vary, and one thing I did want to point out is that I've done a couple videos on declination, and some compasses are fancier than ours, and you can actually adjust the compass to the declination. Ours are not like that. So you're going to have to use the videos that I make on how to adjust for declination by hand and then do it with the compass. So, as you can see here, base plate, so that's this whole back part of your compass. This is the direction of travel arrow, which is pretty self-explanatory. If you point that in a certain direction, that's the way you would want to go. If you follow down that direction of travel, here would be your index line, so that's where you want to line up. If you look here, you can see that this white line here stays in place. Let's say we want to walk at an azimuth of 340 degrees, and I would take and I would place 340 degrees and line it up with that index line, so that's why that's important. There is the orienting arrow, so unfortunately because I just moved this, you can't see it as well, but if you look here, this half red and half black arrow that does not move is going to be your orienting arrow. This arrow here is your magnetic needle, the one that floats. I also call it the floating needle, so you might hear me say that. Behind here, you can see these orienting lines. That's important for whenever we work on a map. And then the last part that's important is this compass housing, and then the degree dial, because the degree dial you're going to be moving. A couple of things I just want to mention, because in the next video I'm going to talk about how to actually use the compass, is there are errors that could happen with the compass because of things that you're doing. So one example is I sometimes wear this Fitbit on my wrist, and you probably noticed that as it crossed over the compass that the needle shifted, right? So you don't want to have anything metal near your compass because it can alter your reading, and then you'd be going in the wrong direction or measuring the wrong direction, and that could lead to drastic results depending on where you're at and what you're doing. The other thing to notice is that if I were to pick this up, you always want to keep your compass level. So sometimes I'll see students going like this with their compass, going like this with their compass, and you notice anytime that you move this, the needle's moving. You want to keep it level so that you get the most accurate reading. So next we'll talk about how to actually use the compass out in the field. Alright, so I'm out here today with a compass and a helper over here with her very own compass who's not going to help today, but she's going to sit there and watch. And what I want to show you all today is how to take a compass if you're given an azimuth to figure out what direction you should walk, and also how to take an azimuth if you're trying to get an azimuth to a certain direction. And then you can take these and put them onto a map, so on and so forth, and use these skills for other methods that I'll teach you in other videos. So, starting out, let's say I'm facing down this road right now, and if I hold the compass flat, which you always should hold the compass flat, you can see that the floating needle is in the orientation arrow, but the black side is in the red part of the orientation arrow, and the red side is closer to the black part of that orientation arrow. So what we want to do to figure out what azimuth I am standing and facing right now, so down there, is we want to take and move our dial, and I'm doing this one-handed so it's a little bit more difficult, but we want to move our dial until our red is in its house. So I think from the angle that I'm looking at this, the red looks to be in the house. It may not be exactly perfect, but that red floating needle should be in its house, which is the red portion of that orientation arrow. But what we can see from reading this, I'll zoom in here, is that that direction is about 70 degrees. So that would be our azimuth. All right, so now what about if I want to go a certain direction? So I've been told that I need to walk so many paces at a certain azimuth, and I'm going to say 340 degrees. So what you're going to do then is that you're actually going to turn your dial until it reads 340 degrees, which again, it's a little bit more difficult for me because I'm one-handed right now, but that's right about 340 degrees. Note that if I point this down and flat at this point, nothing is lining up. The floating needle is not within anything. What you want to do is you want to turn your body until that floating needle, the red part, is in its house. So the red part needs to end up in the red part of the orientation arrow. So I'm going to turn. Remember to hold your compass flat. It doesn't look flat because of how I'm holding the camera, but I am holding it flat. And you're going to turn. Okay? Then at that point, I know that I need to walk that way, which isn't the worst I've ever seen, but that doesn't look overly pleasant to walk right through. Don't forget, this compass right here, right, is a super simple compass. And this compass does not come with a way to change the declination on it. So you need to adjust the declination if you are going between map and compass and map, depending on the location that you're in. And someone would like to say goodbye to you all. You want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.